Call to order. Mr. Deegan, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Here. Ms. Nywer. Here. Ms. Edwards. Dr. Bridges.
Here.
Mr. Jester.
Here. Item number 4, do we have any special guests or special recognitions?
Yes, today we have Mr. McDermott, and he's going to help us understand the tremendous success of United Way this year. So, I'll pass it
Good
off.
evening. My name is Dave McDermott. I'm the Media Operations Director here. I was also this year's chairman for the United Way campaign. And with me is Ms. Ellis, the CEO of the Southwest Oklahoma's United Way. And she's going to speak a little bit, but first I want to brag on some numbers. So this year we set a goal for $60,000 is how much we as a district would raise for United Way. But in fact, we raised $63,343, or 106% of what our goal was. Right. So, I mean, that's... And to brag on the schools a little bit, we had 18 schools that had 100% of their goal. And of those 18 schools, we had 6 of them that had 100% participation. So I think that was a really good accomplishment, too, as a district. The final bragging point that I have is that our 2 buildings, the Shoemaker Center and the Media Technology Center combined, we raised 187% of our goal. So wow. We were the top dogs. So, but right on our heels was Tomlinson Middle School with 172. So, I mean, there were a lot of schools that did really good. So with that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Ellis. And
I know you all have a packed agenda, so I just want to take a few moments, but thank you so much to Dave and his team, and for you all allowing us to come into your classrooms and to your districts, or your district. We totally understand how much you all do for the students out of your own pockets, and so giving above and beyond to United Way so that we can help bridge that gap even further is really, really important. So we're just appreciative. I'm almost speechless about this. This is the first increase I've seen from Lawton Public Schools since I've been here as CEO, and that's been 4+ years. So cannot thank you guys enough. Continue to do what you do, and we are always a call away. We always want to help with resource info and referral. We're helping the same students that you all are, just in a very different way. So keep us in mind, and we appreciate you.
Great.
Mr. McDermott has been the pilot on this, and amazing results, so we appreciate it.
Fabulous. Item number 5, departmental reports.
On departmental reports, we have item A, which is just the written update. If the board doesn't have any questions on either the business or educational services, we'll move on to item B. And item B is an action item, and it's the Gifted and Talented Advisory Committee members report. And if you have any questions, we have Ms. Kelly Trinidad that can help us answer any questions.
Good evening. I'm here to continue a little bit of news on the Gifted and Talented front. We were able to complete our full advisory board, and we're very, very excited about that. Listed on the advisory board will include me as executive director of, for District Gifted and Talented, Alyssa Henley, who is an assistant principal over at Tomlinson. She will be our Gifted and Talented coordinator. She'll also serve in the role as parent. For our district GT recording secretary, Ms. Kathy Kennedy will be helping us out as she has year after year. As a principal from Eisenhower High, we have Dr. Regina Deloach. Director of Curriculum and Grants will be Ms. Teresa Jackson. We will have a principal from the Learning Tree, Ms. Lana Welch, and from Sullivan Village, Brenda Breeze. We have a community partner with GPTC, and who will also serve as a parent, Mr. Mike Newell Our community partner also will be Sylvan, serving as a grandparent, Mr. Howard Johnson. Our GT coordinator at Crosby Elementary, Pearl Brown, will also serve. And then we'll have another community member from Leadership Lawton, Nicole Boucher. Do you have any questions that I can answer?
Thank you, Ms. Trinidad.
All right.
Thank you. So this is an action item.
Yes.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
All right. Let me find my place again and we'll move on. On item 5C, again, we have Miss Kelly Trinidad again, and she'll come give us some information from the State Department of Education ACT College Readiness Report.
You have there in front of you a lovely letter from the ACT. You'll recall that the ACT is our holy grail of how we evaluate our students and what job they're doing once they leave our hallowed halls. The ACT measures progress in English, mathematics, reading, and science. They have included there the very first table. It's a trend for 5 years there. And if you'll take a look at some of the things, I'd like to point out just a few details there in summary on that. Whenever you take a look at our number of students tested, we have gone from 600 up to 795, an increase of 195 students. That's almost a third. But you'll also see that the state has increased. And as you take a look at these numbers, you'll see that the state and our district very much mirror each other. Whenever the state is coming down, there's an overall trend for the state on ACT scores. Also, that's reflective in our scores as well. So we're well within reach of the state. We've got, let's see here, on English-wide scores, we score on average within 1.06, 1.6 of the statewide. We're within an average of 0.48 on our mathematics scores, 0.56 on our science scores, and an average of 0.7 on our composite scores. We did have an incredible, I think we must have had a brilliant group in 2015. Most of their numbers, we outpaced the state at that time. Now there's been a decline in state scores, and also ours reflect that as well there. So we had quite a bit of a drop-off whenever we got through that year. And unfortunately, I'm not able to tell you exactly what it was that got us there. Also, we have benchmark scores right there, the bottom chart. It's the minimum score needed on an ACT subject area to indicate that they'll earn at least a B, or a 75% chance of obtaining a C. And where we're probably hurting the most is in our English composition and our college biology. But we still are doing a little bit better than on average there. So 40% will earn a B or a C in college composition. 20% of our students will earn a B or a C in college algebra, 32 in college social studies, and 18 in college biology. And if you look on the back of the page, more lovely information. We know that the ACT really does respond whenever we increase rigor in our classes and in our courses. And that's what really allows them to really perform. So as we have here in the state, we've got our prerequisites for how many math, how many English, how many social studies, how many all of the science that our students have to take. And if you take a look there, you can see that students who take algebra, both 1 and 2, geometry, trig, and calculus, they are going to have the highest scores. So they will always perform a little bit better. And if you take a look at the end of that scale, it says less than 3 years. That means that they have not taken the highest rigor that they possibly can. They've been floating around maybe with an Algebra 1, maybe they picked up a Science of Mathematics, Mathematics Fundamentals, that sort of thing. And of course, their scores will correspond. And the same thing, of course, with science. You can see the comparisons there. If we give them the gold standard of general science, biology, chemistry, and physics, all of that will translate into a higher score, for sure. As far as preparing our students, there's some recommendations there at the bottom that are listed. It's a little bit text-rich there, but if I can just point out a few things. They talk about establishing collaborative partnerships with local and state post-secondary institutions. We have all of that going on. Naturally, we have our students who are in concurrent enrollment with Cameron University. We, of course, have our partnership with UVA, who helps to guide us and build the leaders that will put the kids in the correct position as far as their ACT scores go. We've also received a recent Gear Up grant from the state, which will initiate and begin in 6th and 7th grade. And Gear Up is all about gearing up for college. And I've worked with the program before. It's an exceptional one. Also, a school culture that identifies and communicates the need for all students to meet or exceed. And that's what we're doing with our collaborative work whenever our teams work together and share their teaching expertise, share what they're doing in their classroom. That helps to make sure that we're providing the very best for all of our students. That rigorous curriculum, we of course have our collaboration. We have received lovely new textbooks that aid in that greatly. We're going to be doing, working in curriculum to develop a specific scope and sequence for many of our core subjects, something that's more teacher-friendly and will hopefully result in a more rigorous curriculum and will allow everyone to access the same resources there. As far as student counseling goes, talking with students, hey, what do you want to do at the end of your 4 years here with us? We've got several programs. ICAP, which is the Individualized Career and Academic Program. Basically, it's a individualized plan for a student. How are you going to go about earning your living and living your life after you leave? Also, we have Gear Up that will help on that. And of course, measuring and evaluating progress. There is no end to how we can measure. We have USA Test Prep, we have STAR, we have pre-ACT. We also provide tutoring to many of our socioeconomic groups that are in need of additional support. So those are just a few of the programs that we have in place to help promote those ACT scores. Do you have any questions?
I just have a question about the Gear Up, because honestly, this is the first time I've heard about it. Can you elaborate on it a bit?
Absolutely. Gear Up is, my experience with it was over in Duncan, and we benefited greatly. They basically, they approach the concept of getting kids ready for college on two fronts. It's not just the mechanics of how to apply for colleges, how to complete reference letters and get those put together, how to complete your FAFSA, going on college tours. All of that is very student-centered, and it's the mechanics of exposing the kids to all the things that need to happen for them to go to college. Lots and lots of steps. And unfortunately, many of our students have no clue of how to go about that. So they begin by educating the students directly. And then they also will provide, at least in the grant that I was involved in, I don't know if it's exactly what we received, but the grant that I was involved in, there was excellent training from a group called Solution Tree. And it focused on collaborative function, professional learning communities, all of that. And it was a great leadership and teacher development program that was available.
So is this done one-on-one with the students, or is it done like in a group? Or,
it depends on,
that's very early, 6th and 7th grade, that's great.
Oh, yes.
But,
well, and part of that, 6th and 7th grade, where we actually get started, the reason why it starts down that low is we have a program with our counseling department called OK Career Guide. Now, in that, it's basically an interest inventory. So whenever our students get established in 6th and 7th grade, we make sure that they've done OK Career Guide. They've moved through all of them, answered the questions, kind of have an idea of where to go. Now, the state has been promoting the concept of career pathways. And that means basically you start with a game plan, with the end in mind. You want to be a veterinarian? Well, these are the science courses you need to take. These are the mathematic courses. So you create that pathway. And this is all about, if we start them in 6th and 7th, then that means they're on track to hit where they need to be and accomplish what they want to by the time they leave us.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I just mentioned Ms. Jackson is here. She might be able to help us on the specifics with the Gear Up
Oh,
grant.
yeah, that's true. Ms. Jackson?
Anything you'd like to add, Ms. Jackson?
Well, we're partnering with K-20 on this grant. So
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And that one didn't require any action.
No.
If there aren't any further questions about that, we have action, item number 5D, and this one is an action item. And this is child nutrition proposed meal price increases for adult staff and visitors. And with this, we have Mr. Steve Dyer. And I can, well, I'm not sure, I think Steve may have thought it was gonna be in the consent agenda. While he's getting his bearings, essentially the state requires us to raise, we do this every year. And this year, and if, I'm sure everybody read the letter, we're just required to raise the prices up for our meals. Otherwise, we have to start paying it, and subsidizing meal costs. And I think in the letter, he mentioned about $10,000.
That is correct.
So really, Steve's just here for questions, if anybody had any questions.
I do. Can we not, with our visitors, it was a little concerning for me to raise them up higher, and the reason is because a lot of our visitors are parents. We have, and as you know, we have a very large base of parents that, you know, qualify, their children qualify for free or reduced or different things. Is there, what would be if we just raised it up to the price that we're charging the other adults?
Currently, I believe it states that the minimum amount to be charged, I think, was $3.71. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Been a couple weeks since I wrote that, so.
You don't just keep these figures in your head?
I try. There's a lot of figures to go through.
Right.
If we charge, say, $3.75, I think, which is
For staff,
proposed
yeah.
for the staff, then that would be fine.
For the visitors?
It would
do the
just,
same thing?
just basically, we've always used a little offset difference to give our LPS employees, you know,
Well,
a
I mean,
little
yeah, I
incentive.
understand that, and I do agree with that to a degree, but as I said, I mean, how much of a difference would it make if we just did the $3.75 and the two? I mean, we're only talking about a quarter piece, but then I also don't know how many visitors we.
Honestly, it would make it a lot easier on our cafeteria staff if it were all the same price, but traditionally for a large number of years, and I can't tell you exactly how many, we've always had this distinction in price difference.
And it's also easier to tell a parent, well, this is what we charge all adults, our staff pays this price and stuff too.
Right, and as long as we're charging above or at that minimum price, then we're not subsidizing the program. And it was not built into the budget to make a large profit.
Right.
It was just to not incur additional expense, and we're hoping to not have to raise the price for a couple of years, which we've held for the last 3 years.
Well, that's just my thought. My thought was that if we just went across the board, it would be easier, but that's just mine.
Well, if we could table it and Mr. Dyer could bring it, but do we have any time?
Actually, it would be fine with me if you wanted to vote for $3.75 across the board.
Can we amend it? Or would you rather?
I'd rather table it, and that way you could actually have the numbers.
To do the.
We might be missing something.
Sure.
All right, I'll make a motion, we table until we get some figures, that tells us if we're gonna lose anything.
I'll bring you the total meals by
Okay.
each group.
All right, thank you,
you.
appreciate that.
She seconded. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Great.
Go back to my agenda spot. And now we have Ms. Ellis with the Sodexo Facility Transition Update, and we've had Sodexo in the district for a month and a half now?
Approximately 4 weeks for the new employees to be on board. And I think that you'll be very pleased to see who they are once they're introduced to you. But just to give you a little update on the transition process, we began this in July as a formal process. And so we gave you your first update in August, and we're now at the second update. And I promised that we would give you one once a month. We didn't have the opportunity to do that in September, and we're here in in October. What I do want you to know at this point is that we have all of the technology in place. Our technology team has been fantastic about getting that up to speed. We have had all of the maintenance employees trained in the use of the technology that they're going to be using. The Maximo system that will be the system that will gather all of the information so that we will be able to compile the reports eventually is actually in place. Now, what we're faced with doing is making sure that the financials that we're bringing on board to the Sodexo side meet all of the criteria that our state requires, and we're beginning to have those conversations with our finance department, our finance team, to do that. The next phase that we'll go to will be training all of our employees to use the work order system, because the work order system will now be Maximo, and it will go into the Maximo system when work orders are placed. And it's a phase-in process. We can't do everything all at one time, nor do we want to, and nor do we want to overwhelm anybody. So we will have that particular part taking place during November and December, and by January, we hope to be online, so to speak. And then it will be learning how to use the system and beginning to utilize all of the information that we have with regard to the assets that we have, the assets that we purchase, and the manpower that we're using. Do you have any questions about that part? Okay, now I'm going to introduce BJ Mandelstein to you. You've met BJ before. She did give the update, and she is going to introduce Sodexo's employees.
Well, it's nice to see everybody again. Thanks for allowing me to present our on-site team. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Don McCaig, who everybody knows. So of course, Don has taken the position of Facilities Engineering Operations Manager, and we are so pleased to have him part of the team. For those of you who may not know, he's been with the district since 1991 and held a variety of positions. The institutional knowledge that he brings to this transition, along with his enthusiasm and excitement and helping us navigate this process, just is immeasurable. We're so thankful to have him as part of the team, so thank you for joining Sodexo. And then we have our facilities director, Jeremy Tanner, who comes to us from Tulsa. He's a longtime facilities expert. Most recently, he's been working with the Red Cross. He has a very broad background and experience, and I think he's going to prove to be a true asset to the district with the knowledge that he brings to the team. So we welcome you to our team. And then we have Brad McKay, who's from Central Missouri. He comes to us from a university, the University of Central Missouri. And this is really awesome and important when we can bring a grounds manager from a university who's been measuring and maintaining sports fields and golf courses and things like that. It truly elevates that front porch, you know, the entrance and the appearance of the district. So we are just thrilled to have you join our team with Sodexo. So thank you again for allowing me to present our on-site team. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We've talked a little bit before and about our new construction that I've been told that y'all are also going to be in charge of, and so you will oversee that. I have some specific questions on that. As we're building Eisenhower Middle School, which is, you know, multi-phase building that will have, somebody needs to be on site every day. Do we have that with y'all, that somebody's on site every day watching as this comes up off the ground?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't have the answer off the top of my head.
Okay.
So I'd like to research that and bring the answer to the board.
Okay, all right. Then I'll have additional questions, but if we
Okay.
can come back, when can we have that sooner rather than later?
And if, even if she can send it to me, I can forward it on to you, but she
There's-
can also come back another
There's
board
questions
meeting.
that'll need to, that will need to go along with that, so.
Yep, as soon as we can.
I mean, you know, Gail, because we're working it day by day. I mean, it's going up as we speak.
I had a question about, and we made it very plain when we went to Sodexo, that we wanted local vendors involved. And
Right.
there's a great deal of worry out there still that that's not gonna happen. So I wanna be sure that you understand that that's a priority for us.
Right, we do understand that, and we're working with finance and procurement right now to have those meetings with vendors, and we're hosting an open house for local vendors to answer questions, but that's in process. It's taking more time to gather the information and make those, have those conversations than we expected. So that's why there's a little bit of delay. And I appreciate that there's some frustration and concern around that.
Sure, and of course, we have people here that know a lot about our local vendors, so I know that you'll work closely with them.
Yeah, and in fact, I think,
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Barber.
Let me give you a little bit. As I stated earlier, it takes time to get through the process. So we've had our first meeting with the finance office. and with Sodexo, a collaborative telephone conference. And what we've decided is that we will have a vendors fair. But we've also provided the list of all of our local vendors to Eleanor Ochoa, who is beginning that process of making contacts with each of the local vendors to begin showing them how they can continue to work with Lawton Public Schools inside this Sodexo collaboration. So it's not the intent of pushing out, it's the intent of bringing in. That is the process that has been slower because of all the vendors that we have, we only work with about 200 local vendors. So we're trying to make sure we weed through and not send out 1,000 letters and that we make some personal contacts. So that process is in place, and we were actually going to begin that process earlier this week, but fall break came in the middle of that. Eleanor had plans to be here, and we were not here as the result of it. Does that help?
And if I get any concerns, I'll call you.
Okay.
You can check it out.
So the vendors fair is the first thing to plan. The personal contact is the second thing that will start
Okay.
this week.
Ms. Ellis, since you're standing there, since I have multiple questions that will feed off of the original question I asked her, I need to send you an email probably that tells you the things that I'm interested in finding out the answers to, and multi-phase, would that be possible to forward that to?
Yes.
Okay.
I will definitely make sure that the team knows that.
All right, I'll put it together tonight and get it emailed to you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for either of us? Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course,
Great to meet you guys.
you
too.
all are welcome to stay, or you're welcome to. Nobody will be offended if you decide to step out, so thank you all very much. And, okay, now we're on item 5F. This is information item. This is presentation of the department goals, the Big Rocks by the members support team, and the focus this month, or this board meeting, is customer service. And so we met, of course, we did an inventory of the departments and what they're doing, and we met, Ms. Ellis and Dr. Polk and I and some other people, and we met and looked at all the different departments and what they were doing. We identified 4 different practices among the departments that are actually either established, have been established for more than, for a considerable amount of time, and are trackable and repeatable. So we wanted to make sure that whatever we, so really we've picked out 4 great examples, and then I'll share a little bit after those, but these are 4 departments that we think can serve as examples for other departments and sites in the district. I'll turn it over to Ms. Lynn.
Hi. Okay. Thank you, Board. I'm Lynn Cordes, Communications Director, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share what our district's efforts are on focusing on providing excellent customer service. So today I'd like to brief you on what our department is doing to serve the community as a whole and share our process to ensure that customer service is being delivered in a timely, effective, and very respectful manner. After the board's announcements of your Big Rocks, we unveiled 2 initiatives to meet the goal. One of them sits in front of you, which is the flyer, How Are We Doing? Those particular flyers you will notice at the front entrance of every LPS site and probably at the door as well in the office. And so what you'll find on that flyer is a QR code that sends parents, students, community members, anybody that visits our schools, to a link to Dr. Deegan's or the superintendent's communication form. And on that form, it allows them to make contact with him, sharing their concerns, questions, inquiries that they may have. And so since we've implemented this, in September, he's received 53 inquiries. And so I broke it down into what those inquiries involved. 13 of them pertain to student services, which asked about transcripts, enrollment, attendance policy, or legal questions that they were having with their students at the time. We had 12 complaints or concerns, as I like to say, which dealt with customer service, HVAC at some of our sites, safety, landscaping, bus, and calendar issues. Then we had 10 thank yous or compliments of our staff members in the district or our schools. 2 were HR-related questions, more of how do I get a job at LPS, so we were happy to oblige with that. And then 16 were just inquiries about the school. They wanted to know more information. They were looking for forms online. They couldn't find it. Athletic schedules, you know, if they had games postponed, and then potential for school collaborations and partnerships. So with that, we averaged it in the beginning. We had a little hiccup. It wasn't going directly to Dr. Deegan. So my team and I and Denise Duffy reached out to all of the ones that made contact. There were about 16, and told them what happened, made that personal contact, and informed them that Dr. Deegan would be getting in touch with them, which he immediately did. After that, he has answered every single email on his own directly, and then he has shared it with staff members that can help them get their answers if he didn't have it. The other thing that we're doing is we also have on our website is a Contact the Soup. It's directly on our district page, and that sends them as well to Dr. Deegan. Let's see. The second thing that we've done is on every school website, we also have Contact Us. That Contact Us feature goes directly to my team, and every day we are checking that. Every day we are responding. We've only had 2 or 3 average out over the week, and those are mostly how do I get in contact with student services to get my transcript. Kind of the same process that Dr. Deegan's receiving. Other than that, we just feel it's important for our community members and stakeholders to have feedback at any time. We've received some as early as 3 o'clock in the morning when somebody's been awake. So we get those notifications and we get on it, not at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, but it's important for them to know that they can have somebody respond to them with their questions or concerns. And that's what I'm doing in our department. So do we have any questions?
And we had one from, was it Uganda?
Uganda, we did have a Uganda email. We did. They wanted to partner up with our Ed Services team. They like what they're doing, so. Okay, I'll pass it on to Mr. Dyer. Oh, Ms. Hastings?
In front of you, you have a small card. This is our customer service survey that we use in Human Resources. With Human Resources, we have a staff of 7. You've got Crystal Cheddix as part of Human Resources, but she's the switchboard operator and receptionist as you come in. Dolores Anderson that works with our applicant portal. In the lower, you've got Stephanie Crow that does the insurance benefits coordinator. Myself, Sherry Cargill, that is our Human Resources clerk. Christy Kellett, that is our certified specialist. And then Renee Cruz, that is our classified or support specialist. Each of those have a little stand in front of their desk, as well as Miss Ellis, Miss Mullen, and myself. On our desk, we have our business cards, these, and then a brochure about our district, that when someone comes in and visits with us, we ask them would they like to fill out a survey, and we have a box in the middle section of over by our kiosk that they can sit down, fill out the survey card, and drop it in the box somewhat anonymously. If they do put contact information, we're good about contacting them within 72 hours, 3 business days. I don't check that each day this time of the year just because of the amount that we have. Each month in my department report, you see a report of how many cards have been submitted, what the ratings have been on the card. And it's been a really great tool for us. Just to give you some numbers, in Human Resources, we have 11,526 applications that's been filled online for our positions, 3,633 individual applicants. Those are warm bodies, and then we've posted 2,218 positions on our applicant portal since it came into effect. Back about the cards, this can help us with not only the acquisition, but the retention and the support of our current employees. And great ideas come from stakeholders. Their perception is the actual reality. Some things have been as simple as one card came in that they would like additional workspace within the back end of Human Resources. We went downstairs, there was a table, it just fit, and it allowed for 2 people to sit there with plenty of elbow space to work in filling out their paperwork. And it allows for, once the paperwork's been gone through, they can move over there, and it also helps us with the flow of the office. Some of the comments have been about our staff being approachable, easy to converse with, that they've been thorough, and very responsive. We started the survey card. This is not something new for Human Resources. We started the survey cards in October of 2016. This past year alone, we had 391 cards submitted. Out of that, 377 gave our staff a rating of 5, an excellent rating for their customer service. But we take each one of them very serious as we look at what the comments are, for not only to meet their needs, but also for us to meet our needs through their eyes. Do you have any questions for Human Resources?
So is there a way, if someone doesn't come directly to your office, like they dealt over the phone, is there a way for them to complete some type of survey that way?
They would be able to submit through the website,
website.
on the Contact the Superintendent.
Okay.
They would be able to give us the information that way.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm AJ Watson, the Director of Information Technology. One of my big rocks was quality assurance, and that includes customer service. Before I begin, I'd like to talk a little bit about my department. We have 21 of us. Myself, I have an administrative assistant, a systems technician. We have our network administrator. He has 3 network technicians, lead computer tech, 11 computer technicians, and 2 computer clerks. Some of the things that we take care of, we have a bunch of numbers up here. We have at least 10,245 desktops, laptops, Chromebooks, and Chromeboxes. We manage 18,090 Active Directory, that's email accounts, as well as Google accounts. For access into the buildings, the security badges, we have 5,844. We have 258 servers, 2,729 iPads, 1,200 wireless access points, 598 switches, 116 network door access controllers. I'll skip through a few of these. 667 in-focus projectors, over 500 smart boards. That's a lot. In addition to that, we have 329.9 thousand files on OneDrive. But in the last 30 days, the number that I really like to share is we've had 1.3 million emails sent and received. All of those weren't read. Quite a few of them were, and all of them weren't necessarily quality emails. And also, we've blocked quite a few of those. We've had a good push this past summer in phishing on our staff, and we've blocked quite a few of those. So I'm very proud of those numbers. Over the past year, we've had 7,354 work orders closed, and that number doesn't accurately reflect the work that we do. And one of the reasons is because when we send a computer tech out, we want them to be as helpful as they can be. So they may go to, fix the phone, but there may be a problem with the projector or with the laptop. So when they're there, I encourage them to fix those items so they don't tell them, well, you need a work order for that. Another reason that number doesn't reflect very well is because we've processed 5,441 new items. And while there are a lot of work orders for those, there's not necessarily always one. And that's a lot of numbers, 5,000. And I anticipate close to the same number this next year with technology that we purchased with the bond. So as we're out there in the schools and the district working on all these items, we encounter a lot of people. And their feedback is very important to my department. So I devised a form that looks something like this, and they fill it out with, if they know their work order number or just the job that was done. Even if they don't know it, they can put, I don't know. Put their email address in. They don't have to. It can be anonymous. They can then pick the computer tech that they saw or that they worked with. And after they pick them, it'll bring them to a page just for that tech, where it'll provide me the feedback on that particular tech, on whether they were timely and helpful, if they had an attitude, and if they want that tech to return to their building to help them. Overall, I've had really nice things said about my department. I'm very grateful for this district. I believe they've been very patient with us when we've been really busy at times. I think that My department is doing great things for customer service, and I do anticipate some negative feedback, but I welcome it because it'll just give us one more thing that we can improve on with our customer service. So, do you have any questions for me? No? All right. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. I'm Steve Dyer. I'm from Child Nutrition, and it is a very great honor to be here tonight to talk about customer service and be one of the 4 departments selected. One of the numbers that I want to share is that each year we serve nearly 3 million meals, and that's a great opportunity to go out and make some great customer service. We have 3 different ways via the web to get feedback about our department. One of the ways is on where parents go to get menus in the Sodexo My Way. There's a link there to fill out an evaluation or a form. We solicit or welcome any comments or any complaints. Also, this last year we introduced another method. Some of you might have read about it in your board notes or tried the So Happy app. It's a fantastic telephone app, but in that it also gives you an opportunity to submit feedback and concerns. And lastly, we always publish all of our contact information on the Lawton Public Schools Child Nutrition website. From all of those each year and our 3 million transactions, we get numerous inquiries about child nutrition, but rarely do we ever get a food service complaint. No one is, this last year, I only recall of one that talked about the quality of food, and we addressed it quickly. So, going on, besides welcoming customers, we love to be out in the cafeterias during the meal times. It's a mandatory thing for our managers to be on the floor and to try to talk to customers and just say, how was your meal today? And with that, we get a lot of feedback and they share it with me, and we put plans into place so that we can make it better. Last year, we initiated the Captured program, and we go out to elementary schools, and we usually pick 10 students to provide them, I guess we provide them with cameras, and they go out and take pictures of what we do well and what we could do better at. And so we take that information that they submit to us after they get done taking pictures. We like to meet with them and get their take on what it is that they actually took on those pictures. And we develop an action plan real quickly and share it with the principals and the cafeteria staff at that school. And what's really neat about it is that we can also use those best practices at all the other schools that we serve. So we think it's a fantastic program, and what the students do is just incredible, their enthusiasm and what they say about our department. I just want to make sure that you know that we like to honor those that provide great service. Each month, Sodexo provides a recognition program where we give our employees a $25, we call it a STEAM Pass, but it's basically a credit card that they can go out and get gas or movie tickets or whatever they want to get. And each quarter, we recognize 2 elementary schools and 1 secondary school for operational excellence. The schools that get the highest achievement receive pizza parties, and I think you may have seen some pictures in the past on that. So, part of providing great customer service is being, innovative, bringing some new features. And this year, it's one of our department goals is to launch the Taste 4 program. And this is going to totally redesign what we do in the high schools. And I guess from its name to its imagery to the menus, everything was developed by teens for teens. And I think that's the most exciting part about it. Our Sodexo chefs created a USDA compliant menu, but it really jazzes up the flavors for all the regular foods, spicy comfort foods, and just makes some really fun combinations. If you're wondering about Taste 4, I have a short video just to give you a better idea about what we're doing. So at the last minute, one of our students from MacArthur High School, where we have just rolled it out, was going to be here, but they had something come up. So unfortunately, I don't have a student to tell you about our customer service, but I just want to say that we're very excited about this new program. So any questions?
No, just next time you bring a video with food in it, we request food.
Thank you.
No, it looks great, thank you.
And the only thing I want to add to it is after we met, Lynn has developed a system that can be replicated by each school, because she has developed the same exact button at each site. So if you go to Adams Elementary, and so she's built a system that the schools can adopt. And then with with AJ and Gene and Steve's models, we have one that's a card system, depending on what works for them. We have one that's online. And then we have, with Steve, we have a corporate model that he can really bring a lot of information. What we're going to do at the next admin team meeting is they're going to share these presentations again. And the challenge will be to all our sites and all our departments to adopt their own model. They can adapt one of these models, or they can come up with their own. But we have 4 good, solid examples for them to use and 4 people that they can go to with help and task to do this. But the important thing is, schools are very notorious for one-way communications. This makes sure that we're receiving 2-way communications. And then the next step will be actual conversations and collaboration on issues. Well, I'm very proud of them, and again, I'd like to give them all a round of applause. Does the board have any other questions for them or me? All right, thank you. Good job. All right.
Okay, item 6. Architect and construction manager risk updates.
With the, yes, we could do 2 separate ones. I think we'll keep we do have a bid presentation later, but also we've asked AIP and Crosslands to come to every board meeting, and so they're going to give us a quick update.
I missed you, Corey.
Hi. Good to see everybody. I'm Corey Miller with AIP. Also with me tonight from AIP is Gong Lee, one of our principals. I'll start off with our agenda items by just giving a recap of the projects we have under construction right now, just giving a brief update on those. Lawton High School windows are about 45% complete over there. Carriage Hills, Thomason, Lawton High re-roofs. We just achieved substantial completion at Tomlinson, so all 3 of those are substantially complete now. Edison re-roof, they're finishing up the punch list over there. Adams re-roof, you've got a contract, I believe, on the agenda tonight to get that one started under construction. MacArthur Middle School HVAC just achieved substantial completion over there. Woodland Hills, Lincoln, and Adams. Adams is substantially complete. Woodland Hills is about 95%. They're patching some walls from demoing old heaters right now. And Lincoln's about 80% complete. We got a lot of work done over fall break.
Wow.
MacArthur High windows, they're substantially complete as well. MacArthur High cafeteria, they're working through some last punch list items, and then we'll be looking at fire alarm and kitchen hood improvements that have been requested by the fire marshal. For Eisenhower Middle School, I think we're going to start drilling piers tomorrow. So we've got a path out onto the mud, and I think we're gonna be dry enough to actually get a pier truck out there tomorrow. The safe room projects, each one's at a little different level of completion. Almore West is the farthest along. That foundation has been placed already. We've got some sanitary components there on site, ready to start trenching out in the middle of that slab. Carriage Hills, the underground sewer rough end is in progress. Crosby Park, the foundation has been excavated, and depending on what day it is, it's a pool, but they're doing well to pump that out quickly and keep it from soaking up too much water. Edison, the footings have been excavated. Right now it's a lot shallower, so it can be covered with plastic, and it's really protected well. Hugh Bish, that site has been surveyed. Sullivan Village, the existing downspouts have all been tied into the new underground storm line, and that has been backfilled. And Woodland Hills, the new underground storm line has been backfilled. Footings have been excavated, and the site has been rough graded for paving. Do y'all have any questions on the current projects?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
On MacArthur High School cafeteria, we were told after it was done that there's no way to access it from inside the building. You have to go outside. Could you explain why?
That was part of the design that was developed with the school staff at that time. There was too much congestion in the corridor right there, having the drink machines, the entry from the back parking lot and the metal detectors there. And they felt it was best to do away with the doors there to keep students from congregating there and bottlenecking everything in that corridor, and to have it accessed from the side like it is now.
Is it covered, or when it rains and stuff, are they gonna get wet?
Yes, ma'am. There was a cover that was there connecting the newer addition where the library is to that entryway door, and we've extended that to cover the entry into the cafeteria, the new doors there.
Okay, and also one of our big rocks is safety. How safe is that for our students to be just outside of the building at any given time, maybe in a line?
Yeah, that area is gated off. That's an interior courtyard, basically.
So it is all interior courtyard? I didn't have it.
It's fenced off. The students can't leave or come into the site that way. They're inside the secure perimeter at that point.
But they're inside a courtyard where there's a building on all sides of them. This is oh, middle.
Yeah, this is fencing, but it's enclosed.
Eisenhower Middle School has the same problem? Okay, that's a problem. Okay, thank you.
It won't have.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. It's the new building, the old building has been that way for.
All right, that's it for the update, and we'll wait for the next agenda.
All
right.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for Crossland?
Any questions for Crossland?
Crossland, yes, lots.
Now, Michael is over Eisenhower Middle School.
Yep,
and
that's
then
correct.
But he can answer for.
As far as safe rooms, I do my best.
Yes.
I won't have any questions about safe rooms.
Okay.
Well, actually, I don't know if this is exact time. I put my notes on this one, but maybe I need to wait until we get down to 7B. Does it matter? Are we on, not 7B, yeah. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, you probably should wait then.
Okay, that's where I need my questions to be answered.
Okay. All right, I guess you're off the hook.
All
for
right,
now.
that works.
Thank you.
Items number 7, report of the superintendent.
All right, under the report of the superintendent, I just have a few items, but we have a lot of information in these items. Now, on item 7A, BOK Financial, I'm gonna confirm that there are no BOK Financial. I had actually, this is a mistake, they're coming to the November meeting when they come to do the bond oversight committee. So this is my mistake, putting them on the agenda for today. Yes. But they'll do their update then, so it doesn't cost us any time, so. Unless the board wants to make me very uncomfortable, I'd like to move to item 7B.
I had a question about the, no, I'm kidding.
On item 7B, this is, and again, we have Crosslands here that'll take the lead on this, but we have the guaranteed maximum price number 2, GMP number 2 for Eisenhower Middle School construction project.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Mike Cheney, I'm the project manager for the Eisenhower Middle School project. Just going through the bid results for bid package number 2 that was bid out for this GMP number 2. What I'll do is I'll go through each individual actual trade contract, and then we'll go over the summary at the end. I'll go through my Crossland's recommendations and I'll read off the amount for that recommendation, starting with trade contract 4A masonry. For that contract, we're gonna recommend DMG Masonry at $2,999,300.
Excuse me, can you stop for a second? If we
Yes,
have
ma'am.
questions on specific ones of these, do we just wait till the end, or just let him go through it all at one time?
Either way.
Okay, my question on this
Sure.
one then, if we're gonna do that, is this bid is like $1 million lower than the
Yes.
other two bids? And to me, that was like a red flag. What do you see when you see something like that?
So that was absolutely a red flag to us when we first saw it initially. After vetting each individual contractor, we went through with DMG pretty extensively and had them actually open up their books and show us their takeoffs and everything. And it actually meshed up pretty well, spot on kind of what we had taken off originally. What we noticed with Lone Star and CNN was their schedule was throwing it off, and they were not anticipating. They put a lot of money into the schedule that they thought was, I guess, difficult for them. After speaking with DMG, they actually had more crews and thought they could meet the schedule with no issues whatsoever. So as far as the $1 million difference, I don't know exactly where they're coming from as far as it could have been takeoffs. They could have been using a different manufacturer that was pricing it, could have been more as far as price. But we are very comfortable with DMG as far as their actual number.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Going to 7B, roofing. Currently right now, and this could change based off the discussion we have in the next action item. Currently right now, we're recommending Brock's Industries at $326,400. For the next trade contract, it's gonna be 8B overhead doors. The Crossland's recommending Johnson Equipment at $66,625. For 8C aluminum and glazing, we're recommending Avenue C Glass at $1,324,066. For the next trade contract, 9A chipboard and assemblies, we're recommending Southwest Drywall at $1,594,370. For the next trade contract, 9B finished flooring and tile, we're recommending Brian's Flooring at $613,000. For 9C wood gym and stage flooring, we're recommending Tri-State Floors at $255,940. For 9E painting and wall covering, we're recommending Sheffield Construction at $775,412. For 10A specialties, we're recommending Red Mountain at $206,800. For trade contract 10D lockers, we are recommending Best Companies at $164,818. And just to clarify this one, we're recommending Best Companies because Elite Storage did not have the correct spec'd out item, and they were not able to provide that item, and so they had to withdraw their bid. For trade contract 11A food service equipment, we're recommending Oswalt at $546,178. For trade contract 11B stage equipment and curtain, we're recommending Performance Stage at $94,292. For trade contract 11C gym equipment, we're recommending SportsCon at $44,575. For 11D musical instrument storage, we're recommending Wenger at $29,971. For trade contract 12A window treatments and curtains, we're recommending Russell Interiors at $18,980. For trade contract 12B fixed audience seating, we're recommending Heartland at $209,858. For 12C telescopic and fixed gym seating, we're recommending Performance at $123,251. For the wood laboratory casework, we're recommending Best Companies at $114,852. For the next trade contract, 14 Alpha for elevators, we're recommending Otis based on the recommendations from AIP and LPS at $119,324. For 21A, fire protection, we're recommending P&L Fire, $415,765. For 22A, plumbing, we're recommending Pippin Brothers at $1,429,700.
Can I stop you there?
Yes, ma'am.
I've noticed as we're going through this, we only have one bid.
Yes,
And so
ma'am.
some of them are kind of small, but when we get to the plumbing and we only have one bid, is there a reason why we don't try to, rebid and see what the problem is, why we're not getting any competitive bids?
Yes, ma'am. So for this one specifically, we did look at possibly rebidding that, but due to the urgency of needing plumbing for all the underground that's getting ready to happen, especially going through all of our grade beams with all the concrete, we're gonna have to do a lot of sleeves, and that is, there's a lot of planning, and due to the limited time for material, we recommended to go with the low bidder at this one. It was under budget, and so, yeah, because we agree, absolutely. We had more scheduled that said they were gonna bid, and for whatever reason, last minute calling, we normally try to call the day before and day prior, and leading up to that, into the last week, and it's, yeah, we're gonna bid, yes, we're gonna bid, and then come bid day, you don't receive their bid, and when you go back and call, there's always an excuse.
Second part question
Yeah.
is, why did we're accepting bids for stuff that we know are several months down the road. Why did we
Yes.
not bid plumbing quicker?
So plumbing had to do with the MEP design. Whenever we were at bid package 1, it was not fully complete, and I can let Corey jump in on that one if he wants to.
We bid some of the packages early. The civil and the steel went out ahead of schedule. And so plumbing was finished on schedule. There wasn't a way to get it out any sooner than that. But
And you're comfortable with the bid that we got?
We're bidding on, putting up, walls, and we're not even we haven't even poured piers, so I don't
Yeah.
know why we would, I guess I'm just not understanding.
one of the things we'll get into after we're finished with this summary, there are some items that we only received one bid on that were over budget, or we didn't have any bidders show up that we're gonna have to rebid.
Right.
We're really aiming to get all the numbers in at this time, so we can tell that the whole project is on budget, and we're not making any assumptions moving forward.
Right.
So even though we don't need those items right away, we would like to get that number locked in.
I understand that, so, so just walk me through why we couldn't do the plumbing bidding quicker. Maybe I'm just not hearing you.
Yeah, the development of the design just wasn't gonna allow it to be completed any sooner.
Okay.
We set out a schedule, and we were able to get some of those packages, like civil and steel, out sooner than the others. And that one wasn't able to be rushed out any sooner than that.
I think it's due to the steel and the actual civil, they're kind of separate packages compared to where MEP ties into the entire architectural. There's a lot more design that goes into that because it incorporates everything into it, to where civil and structural they're standalone. You can push those out a lot easier.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, a lot of coordination there.
okay.
Any other questions on plumbing? Moving on to the next, 26A, electrical. We recommend Southern Plains, $2,402,174. And for 26, lightning protection, recommending Wilmar Electric at $64,000. For 27A, communication, we recommend Index of Oklahoma at $195,300. For 27B, audiovisual, recommend High Tektronics at $185,583. For 28A, fire alarm, we recommend Advanced Cabling at $64,936. For 32A, irrigation, we recommend Grooms for $38,883. Okay, so that is running through all of the individual trades that we had. going over the summary, going back to the summary. So like we just talked about for some of the items that we either only had one bid, they went way over budget. We decided to rebid those because they weren't extremely critical to what we need kind of right now and what's at least within the next 90 days. And those items that we're going to rebid is going to be millwork, waterproofing, door assemblies, terrazzo, equipment screens, signage, and HVAC. So those are going to be rebid on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday at 2 o'clock for bid package number 3. So we can jump on those and try to get the next bid GMP in. So if we go down to the bottom where it's talking about total construction costs for GMP 1, 2, 3, and then the overall budget. So for GMP number 1, we can see that we were at 10 million from the last one. Our total for GMP number 2 is at 16,599,241. And we are taking, what we are assuming for GMP number 3 is all of our budgeted costs from the 95%. And we're calling that GMP number 3 until we actually have our actual costs. And once we get the actual, then we'll plug that in and we'll be a little bit closer to our total number. There's also going to be a bid package 4, which is the one that we've discussed in previous meetings, talking about the ones that are going to be bid out at the end of the year that we're looking to site concrete, landscape, the demo of the old building, and that's to help out the subcontractors with bonding capacity. There is a note on the end. We took out the pre-construction fee because that was invoiced as a separate amount. So we took it was never included into the profit and overhead or anything like that. It was just into the total amount. So we removed that since that was billed as a separate item. So currently, with total amount, we're looking at 35,832,208, which puts us over our 35 million of 832,208. And based on the results that we received from this next bid package on Wednesday, we'll have a better indicator on where we're actually going to be at a total budget amount. Any questions for me on the overall summary?
Nope. I have one for you. Corey.
Good.
Sorry, Corey. My question is on the demolition of the auxiliary gym. I know we didn't put that in to begin with. Could we not use that anywhere else? How did that come about?
We decided to bid demolition of the rest of the building later on. We had some concerns about bonding capacity of folks bidding that basically a year to a year and a half before it was going to be constructed.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of that demolition package was postponed. The auxiliary gym needed to go right away because it's in the pathway of utilities, and I believe the kitchen is going to be overlapping with that.
Right, so, and seconding my question, we couldn't use it anywhere else? I mean, any of the materials, any of the metal or anything, it all had to just be demolished and carted away?
Couldn't reuse it?
Yeah.
It's completely possible that subcontractor decided to do that, and that was built into his price.
Okay.
But to have asked somebody to relocate that for us, we would have been adding costs to this project.
Okay, so what you're saying is the subcontractor, you don't know what they're doing with it?
Right, they just needed to get it off site.
Okay.
They could have resold it.
Okay.
Mr. President, we have two options on how the board could act upon this. You could act upon this GMP and remove the roofing, or I don't believe, with Mr. Wade's permission, you could wait and hear the proposal on item over the roofing, and then come back and act on item B, which.
Whichever's easiest for.
What's easiest for you, Kathy?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so.
prefer to remove the roofing and bid on the rest of the package,
I do too.
and then discuss the roofing afterwards and bid on that.
Okay.
All right, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Wait, say that all, one more minute.
Just
We're gonna remove the roofing.
Remove the roofing. yes.
Move the roofing and move for approval of the balance.
Right, okay. Patty, you made the motion. Ms. Clodfelter, did you second, or Lori?
Yeah, and roofing, I believe, is.
She seconded.
Oh, Carla,
7
yeah,
p.m.
sorry.
No,
Call roll,
7D.
please.
It's 7D that we're removing.
Ms. Clodfelter,
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth,
Yes.
Dr. Bridges,
Yes.
Mr. Jester.
Yes. Okay. Guess we're ready now to discuss the roof.
And on item 7C, it's discussion and possible action regarding Ford Roofing and Brock's Roofing bids related to Eisenhower Middle School construction project. And before Corey jumps in, just spoke to board president. We have two local bidders, very well respected. We have two different building or design options. And so we really had two low bids. And so we thought this was a good time, have both local bidders come in so they can make sure the board's fully informed before the board makes a decision. So pass it off to Corey.
Yeah, and I'd just like to introduce the issue, and then we've invited both roofers here tonight and encourage them to prepare up to a 3-minute presentation, and then be ready to answer any questions that the board has for them. So we have two systems that we bid out. Our original recommendation was to go with a lightweight concrete roof deck that was covered with TPO roofing membrane. That was done because that lightweight concrete provides a protective layer over top of insulation, and when it's re-roofed, that insulation doesn't need to be replaced. It also saves money. That roof system is going to provide the slope in our roof. Our structure is not sloping with this building. And so with the lightweight concrete system, they build up tiers of flat insulation and then cover it with the concrete that provides the taper and smooths out that slope. During design, we had input from subcontractors that helped us evaluate pricing and just constructability concerns. And one of the things that came forward from that is that they thought they could do the same or a similar roof system with tapered insulation for less than this base bid. And so with the tapered insulation, the slope of the roof is provided by the insulation, but because it's cut that way and it's a custom system, it's oftentimes a lot more expensive than using flat board insulation. You know, we took the advice of the bidder and we went ahead and included that as an alternate, just to let you know, bids play out and see what came in. That system ended up being $31,400 less, and so there was some merit to that. However, you know, having two basically low bidders, since then we've received some comments on some things that we should be concerned with both systems, and you know, we've evaluated those, we've researched those, and just wanted to bring those to your attention in case that you have any concerns. The critics of the lightweight concrete system have cited their experience when removing that system from older projects, and moisture has gotten into that concrete, broken it down over time, and they've said that they've had to remove that entire system and start over, you know, with the roof. Based on our research, that seems to be the older type of concrete that was considered structural lightweight concrete. What we're specifying is a different mixture. It's air-entrained cellular concrete, so it's not affected in the presence of water. It doesn't hold water. It's very permeable, and once that roofing membrane is taken off, it dries out quickly if there was any water under that system from roof leaks, so it can be re-roofed over after that. With the tapered insulation system, critics of that would say that, you know, during a re-roof, ripping that membrane off of the insulation damages that insulation, and since that insulation is a very expensive component, if it were to all have to be replaced, it's going to cost you a lot of money when it comes time to re-roof. Now, proponents of this system will tell you that ripping that membrane off only damages the top facer layer of the cover board, and then you simply come back and, you know, adhere a second cover board and re-roof up from there. So both systems have their merits, but we want to give the roofers a chance to speak their case. Let's start off with the low base bidder, and that's Brock's Roofing.
Hello, my name's Stephen Ishtai with Brock's Industries. Of course, the roof system, as Corey pointed out, I proposed was a lightweight insulating concrete deck with a TPO membrane. As a matter of fact, our TPO membrane that I had to include in my bid is a betterment from the specs to meet the performance and warranty requirements that was specified in the bid package. I had to go with actually a fleece back system, TPO system. The appearance of the system is you can't tell the difference truly, to untrained eye when it's installed, but it does include quite a bit better warranty in it. It's a 20-year warranty, but it will include coverage of damage for up to 2 inches of hail for the life of the warranty, and it will include 16 man-hours per year of accidental puncture repair for the life of the warranty, which is not included in the specified 60 mil TPO barebacked. The lightweight concrete that we are proposing, have a representative from the contractor that gave me a price on that, and it does not include the old system included a vermiculite aggregate that was acted like a sponge and absorbed water. When you have a freeze or thaw situation, that lightweight would break up. So when you remove the old system, that would be a damaged roof underneath it, damaged base underneath it. With this system that we have, that we believe that it will not, we know that it will not be damaged once we remove that roof membrane when you have to replace that roof. Just an example, contrast between the two systems. In today's dollars, to replace my system and leave lightweight and concrete in place, is going to cost between $550,000 to $600,000 to replace the roof on that particular building. To replace the total tapered insulation system on the alternate system, you're looking at $1.35 to $1.4 million for replacement. So life cycle of roof, our roof system is cheaper. So, any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
I was told that this will have to be subbed out, but we don't have anybody here that actually can do this type of roof, so it'll have to come from somewhere out of, like Kansas or somewhere, that they have to come in and do this,
We
right?
do. We have the contractor that we have used. They're out of Houston, and I do have a representative here with me today. If you have any questions about the particular system they're doing, they can answer that.
Okay, because also I was told that this system cannot be poured at certain times. When it's cold in the winter, when it's extremely hot in the summer, there's like a small window of time that you can actually pour this concrete to make it the most.
Well, I'll let Brian Batchman with GL Nettles answer that question, please.
Yeah, we obviously whenever it gets really cold, we don't want to be pouring anything. Usually about 40 degrees and below. We don't pour. We do have a way to heat the water up that we can pour in colder weather, but usually it's about a 40 degree. It's kind of the minimum we want to go. As far as maximum, we can pour when it's extremely hot outside. But yeah, it's a lightweight cellular insulating concrete. It uses an air entraining. It's a foaming agent as opposed to the vermiculite Stephen was talking about, and it won't cause the thermal, the thawing and the freezing of the system like it used to with the vermiculite type.
And I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm not going to have it completely right because I don't remember all the little words, but what I was told about this one is there's almost a punch system that happens when you have to replace this roof, where they basically, what it seemed to me like, you're going to fasten it together, which causes an indentation, which if you do this over time is eventually going to cause that to be, not secure, you won't be able to keep it from leaking.
Right, so that's for a nail base sheet?
Yes, and actually, I can answer that. We are not doing a nail base sheet. Our fleece back membrane is designed to adhere directly over.
Fleece?
The fleece back membrane, yes. It's designed to adhere directly over the lightweight. So there will not be any of the fasteners, as you pointed out, to do the damage.
And this one, they talked about it having a slopage and that's for drainage. So the drainage, I'm assuming, meets the specs and
Yes.
things for what we have for a drainage system. And what kind of drainage system are we having on this roof?
That'd be plenty, yes.
Backup roof drains.
I didn't hear you.
Roof drains,
And emergency roof drains.
Okay.
And as far as to add on to the temperature question, the most manufacturers, when you are, the thickness of this insulation of the alternate system, you have to adhere with the low-rise foam adhesive. Most manufacturers recommend 40 and rising for the installation of that also.
Okay. I think that's all for you for right now. I think that's all for right now.
Any more questions for Brox? Okay. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I reserve the right to ask a question from the.
Of course, of course.
I've done my research on this.
No, but nobody in the room is safe.
No,
from
not
this
from them.
motherfucker. Now, we representatives from Ford Roofing, so.
Good evening.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Young. I'm representing Ford Roofing and Sheet Metal. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. You know, the first thing I'd like to tell everyone, since we're competing against our in-town friends, Lawton Public Schools cannot go wrong hiring Brox Industries for any project, and we certainly feel the same for our home team. This debate, Corey, we've done a lot of work on this. Our position, for what it's worth, the opinion of Ford Roofing and Sheet Metal, we have had significant difficulties in re-roof applications over lightweight insulating concrete. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, we installed those systems with our own in-house labor, as did a lot of contractors at that time. We have completely discontinued that due to troubles that we've had over decades of doing this type of work. We've experienced on many projects the cost and the burden to remove a lightweight insulating concrete system over a metal deck pan. We've had to replace rusted roof decks. We've had to perform these re-roof operations over occupied spaces to where we can't have, you know, people beneath us would have to remove students out of classrooms, for example, to accommodate that. The tapered insulation system that we are the low bidder for, which again, remember, these are what have been specified by AIP. It's what everyone's bid on. It just happens that I'm the low bid with the poly-iso roof board insulation option. Brox is the low bid with the lightweight insulating concrete option. That's it. I want to ask everyone a question about the tapered ISO, and we can certainly get Corey to weigh in on this. We have done, Ford Roofing has been blessed to do so many projects with Lawton Public Schools in the last, let's say, 10 years. I believe it to be true that all of those systems have been over poly-iso roof board. I don't know of any that have not been. So this project is unique in that we're creating a slope in this structure with the tapered poly-iso insulation or the place to slope lightweight insulating concrete. My question is, if we're going to have difficulty in re-roofing over the tapered poly-iso, that's not any different than if we're re-roofing over flat ISO. Carriage Hills Elementary last year completed that job this winter. It has flat poly-iso insulation, as do all these jobs. Tomlinson Middle School just got substantial completion on that. Has flat poly-iso insulation underneath the old roof. Time to re-roof that, what we were able to do is perform a moisture scan where we can identify the wet spots that are in that roof system. Some of those were as small as that table. Cut them out to the deck, replace the wet insulation board, and then do a re-roof right over the top of the poly-iso. So it's my opinion that on this project, whether it be 20 years or 20 years plus down the road, or maybe we get hit by a storm that causes damage to the roof system, and we have those roof leaks that's going to warrant a re-roof of Eisenhower Middle School, whenever that may be, that with a poly-iso roof board insulation, we can replace just the wet spots. We can place a cover board over that system and re-roof that for a very economical price. I want to be very careful. If I have a different opinion than Mr. Miller here and Mr. Lee, that's not my intent. I'm just speaking towards our experience. We've had exactly the opposite results when re-roofing over lightweight insulating concrete. This is why we don't do that in-house. This is why we utilize tapered ISO roof board insulation. That's what you've seen on all your other projects, the yellow rigid foam boards that goes on Lawton High School next door. Same stuff. there's really quite a few questions there that we could be engaged with. If anyone has any, I can certainly weigh in, and I'd like to maybe ask a few additional questions with Mr. Miller's permission as we go.
I do. All right. So this would all be done by in-house. I mean, you don't have to subcontract any of this out. It'd be something that your company can handle all on its.
That is correct, Mrs. Clodfelter.
Okay. Also, and I'm sorry that I didn't have access to my computer to write these notes down, so they're all over the place. With the lightweight concrete, go back to that. With the lightweight concrete, you know, as I was talking, when they go back and they have to re-roof and they re-roof, and it's been your experience, even if they're just using a glue type deal, how does that concrete hold up under all that?
That's a good question. It's been my experience when I'm removing a single ply membrane, like we have a TPO membrane here, that I'm going to cause damage to the face of, or the top of the lightweight insulating concrete. Just the same, I would cause damage to the face of a polyiso roof board, just the same. And so the common solution to that is when we do that damage to that top layer, we have to place a 1/2 inch recovering board on top of either system before that we re-roof. That's so that we can get good adhesion with our new roof. Remember, these are single sheets of rubber roofing that glue down, often with a cement that's very similar to just contact cement. So if I don't have a flat surface to glue to, it becomes impractical.
I got a question. The representative from from Brock's Industries estimated that the replacement on the lightweight concrete 20 years from now, of course we can't project 20 years, but $550,000 to $600,000, and he estimated that this other system might be as much as 1.2. What would your estimate be for the insulated?
Yeah, Mr. Jester, I believe, and Mr. Ishtai, if I misspeak, certainly. This is not a debate between Brock's and Ford, but those prospective prices would be if I was to demo the tapered ISO system down to the structural deck and replace that, but then leave the lightweight insulating concrete in place and re-roof over the top of that. So with Stephen's permission, I would say that's not an apples to apples comparison. If I can leave the lightweight insulating concrete, I can certainly leave the polyiso roof board. I can prove that because I've got hundreds of completed projects where we leave our polyiso roof board in place. We've just completed those for LPS. We do them all the time. And so if I can do that, it's apples to apples. And so I would propose that re-roof price would be the same if I can leave both the lightweight insulating concrete and the tapered polyiso. I think it's a challenge to our minds to think that this polyiso is different than what we do every time because it's tapered all of a sudden, but it's not. It's still just that same yellow foam. It's just, it's a tapered slope now. That's how we achieve the drainage on the roof.
So the drainage for this does meet specs and everything, or however?
That's correct. It's exactly as AIP had designed that. Drains into the same roof drains with the same emergency overflow drains. There's no changes there.
And as these things happen and re-roofs are gonna happen, I mean, just like you said, we don't know if a storm will come and destroy the roof or just wear and tear down the road. Does this build, do both of them build up, you know, to get thicker and thicker?
They do. So in that, you know, if we're talking of roof systems of old, some of these old multiple plies of asphalt roof systems, we've all seen this where these roofs get, you know, this thick. With these type of single ply membranes, Mrs. Clodfelter, we're only adding maybe a 1/2 inch recovery board every time we re-roof that. And so that same thing may happen, but I would suggest it'd be minimal.
Okay. What about with the other type? When you have to do the re-roofing on it and you have to add, does it add layers too?
Well, with the fleece back system that we do, Jeff is correct, if we're doing a bareback TPO, you would need a cover board over it. But with the fleece back and low rise foam, you could go directly back over the lightweight composite
would never increase in debt.
What about hail resistance? Can you compare the two systems on hail resistance?
Yes, I can. We would be available for similar hail warranties. It's just not an apples-to-apples comparison, Mr. Jester, in that regard, but bidding what was specified with the 60 mil TPO membrane would certainly satisfy the specs.
I was kind of speaking to the difference between the concrete and the foam as far as their actual ability to withstand hail.
Yeah, it's been my practical in the field experience. I've had some pretty significant hail damage on lightweight insulating concrete, where I've had systems become unadhered. When the hailstone strikes the lightweight concrete, kind of produces a dusting condition on that top layer of that concrete. So then my roof membrane is only attached to the dust. So I've been part of a few projects where we've had some blow-off issues due to previous hail damage, whether or not it fractures the membrane. On polyiso, we certainly have an opportunity for that hailstone to dent the ISO and leave an impact, but I've not had the same issue where I have blow-off tendencies due to unadhered membrane. Now, I'm trying not to get into anything too technical, but just a practical share our experiences, having done it both ways many times.
So you're saying the warranty is 20, they were talking about 20-year on the Brock's roof and.
That is correct, and that is based off of Mr. Miller's specifications. We're all required to provide that.
That's what I was thinking.
There are some other issues when it comes to re-roofing and building code compliance that I'm very concerned about. I don't believe at this time with current energy code and building code that I can pull a TPO membrane off of a lightweight insulating concrete and get code approval to go back right on top of that. But I know I can do that with polyiso. But again, don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to sell one thing over another. It just happens that I was the low bid on the polyiso option. I've been engaged in this project for over a year now. And anyone correct me if I'm wrong, it's always been my opinion that polyiso is a superior roofing product for insulating and placing that slope as compared to lightweight insulating concrete. This again is why we do that in-house and we don't do the other.
Okay. I had another question, I forgot it.
That, and I was pleased to be cheaper.
Yep. Okay, so how do we want to?
Mr. Reed, did I miss anything? Nick, guys, a lot of,
What'd you say?
we've done a lot of research on this.
I think Brox wants to.
Okay.
Corey?
Corey, I think Brox would like to say something.
Okay, just say something on the warranty. As I said, the bareback TPO does not have a hail warranty. Actually, the manufacturer warrants the place back system for up to 2 inch hail damage. So anything happens to the roof system, there's leaks, partial blow offs, whatever, because of the hail up to 2 inches, it is covered in your warranty for 20 years.
Okay.
Also, the example that Jeff gave about the dusting of the top of the hailstones, the installation of the fleece pack with the low-rise extruded flexible adhesive, that does not happen on that one. So, and I do not know of any code violations of removing the TPO roof and rebuilding back on top of the line.
So you think the reason they build in the hail, into the warranty is because it does receive so much hail damage?
They do because their system was tested to withstand that much. It's the same bareback 60 mil TPO that was included in Jeff's price, but it has a 55 mil fabric back laminated on it, fleece fabric, and it withstands with the flexible fastener adhesive that from Carlisle, it withstands the damage.
Okay, that did bring up a question right there. This, ask Corey, on these, there's what they call mechanically fastened.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get that note here somewhere. Oh, right here. But I've confused myself on which one it is. One of them is the insulation is screwed and then glued, and one of them it's not mechanically fastened. I'm kind of. Can you address that?
Yeah, so we use terms like mechanically fastened or fully adhered to usually describe how that top membrane is secured. The mechanically fastened is less expensive, goes faster. Fully adhered, basically every inch of that roof is glued down.
Right.
Now, what happens underneath those layers and how you build up the insulation can vary. For this specific project, if we were going with the tapered insulation, for example, we would require that the first layer of insulation be screwed down to the metal deck, and then up from there, you glue every layer.
Okay, all right. And then if we go with Ford, that would be glued all the way from the beginning. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that system I was describing was the one that Ford is low bid on.
Oh, okay, so that would be,
Yeah.
okay.
With the other lightweight concrete system, that foam board is set in concrete, and then it's got more concrete poured on top of it to hold it all down.
Okay.
My partners alerted me to a mistake I made, and that in regards to the 2-inch L warranty, that would be part of our system as well.
All right. So both would cover that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so how are we
All
doing?
right, so I've made some notes while they were presenting. I just want to answer those questions really quickly, and then I'll summarize with our conclusion. The question about the difference in re-roofing, you know, these systems versus what we've been doing at all the buildings around Lawton for years. You know, Tomlinson is one of the only schools that has the tapered insulation, the sloped insulation. Right now, we're just doing a cover over for that, so they're only replacing isolated areas of insulation that have been ruined by too much moisture. Now, as far as why we don't usually recommend that, the flat insulation is a lot cheaper than the sloped insulation. So we typically go with the flat insulation over a sloped structure. However, in this new school construction, since we have the opportunity to start from scratch, the slope in the roof system is going to save us some slope in the building envelope and actually made the size of the building smaller. We're just putting that slope above the envelope. Concrete durability under those adhesives and the evenness of the surface once you rip it off. The concrete that we're specifying is 250 PSI, which is actually on the high end of the range for that type of system. And so it's going to be very hard on the surface. When you rip off that membrane, it shouldn't spall off, it shouldn't flake off, and it shouldn't, you know, leave an uneven surface under that. And as far as re-roofing pricing, that really leads me into my conclusion. You know, we were asked to recommend one of the roof systems. We specified both, which really means that we believe in both. They're both applicable for this type of building and for this budget. They're both good systems. We wouldn't have specified them otherwise. We really thought economics would you know, play a major factor here, but really the bids are about 2% apart. So what sets them aside from each other really to us is what we found in our research is coming down the pipeline in future codes. Future roofs are going to be required to have an air barrier system. And right now, TPO is considered an air barrier system. But we've seen discussion and the notes that go into developing those codes that seem to suggest it's not going to be considered that in the future. And so what you may be left up to is in 20 years when you need a re-roof, you can't simply cover over the system with the sloped insulation under it. We may have to rip it off down to deck, put a secondary barrier over the roof deck, and then start over. So some of your cost savings is going to be depleted there. From what we can tell, that lightweight concrete deck is considered an air barrier, and you know, it's always going to stay under there. You're not going to damage it re-roofing and tearing off the membrane, so you can come back and cover it over. So
Can I add something to that? This is where we've done significant research on this, and during current building code, the TPO membrane system does work as the air barrier. That is part of current building code. That building code is driven by the National Roofing Contractors Association. We have direct communication with the NRCA that suggests precisely that TPO adhered membrane systems will forever be allowed as air barriers. And so with that in mind, I have no concern with that for future reference. I have significant documentation over these things.
Yeah, from the research that we've been reading, you know, even with a fully adhered roof membrane, every inch of that roof doesn't end up glued down. And so what happens is you get a little bit of a flutter, an uplift from that, and it sucks in air or pushes out air. It moves it from the building to the outside. And I think that's the concern that the trade organizations have right now with the way that the codes are written.
Based on my research, the NRCA, they have do an extensive research of the polyester. So they found out, because normally the contract manufacturer give 20 years warranty, but during their intensive research, they found out the polyester only probably like 70 years lifetime. So start matter 20 years later, you got the whole system, because the polyester turned into absorb a lot of moisture, a lot of water in it. So they're turning into like a year, 10 years, their R value can lose 10%, 20%. So like 20 years, probably you're getting like a 30 to 40%. So this by that time, you probably now we spec like a NRCA only allow 5 per inch per R value. By that time, you probably get like 3.5. So by that code, you know, I'm sure by that time, Oklahoma will adopt probably energy code 2020 whatever. So we more than we need. So what I'm saying is by that time, the whole system will be out. You got to put a new polyester, new TPO. That's
Exactly, exactly, 20 years, I mean, I've never seen a roof. Didn't want to look
Any
at
other questions,
something.
Fred?
Yeah.
Could I add a quick comment to that?
Would, do you want to say
No,
more?
go ahead.
The roofing industry recognizes what Don is saying over there, the fact that polyiso does lose a portion of its R value, its insulating value over time, not thickness, anything like that, but the value of the insulation that it's providing your facility. It does lose that over time. They have changed the way that they rate that polyiso now to, they call it LTTR instead of R value, long-term thermal resistance rather than just resistance. So they take that into account. As it comes out of the factory, it's actually higher than what the label tells you that it's going to be. So for instance, it tells you that it's an R value of, now it's 5.7 per inch of thickness. That was over 6 a few years ago. They realized that it does lose that value over time, so they've made the ratings lower to account for long-term thermal resistance, not just what's going to be there tomorrow, if that makes sense. So the industry does recognize that it does lose its value after it comes off the line, and they take that into account the way that they rate it for its long-term.
Thank you.
The NRC do recommend that in 20 years, you better just replace a new system, not put existing, just a new existing polyiso, because the water is probably saturated the polyiso. By that time, it's kind of, you just put new money, like a skin, just a old system. It's not, they do recommend this totally good deal. Basically, actually, it's 70 years. That's what they're putting this.
Well,
Now, Mr.
if we did that, though, all of the systems that we're doing.
I think we're gonna cut it off now.
Yeah.
I think, we've heard enough.
Well, have we heard Corey's recommendation?
I asked
Yeah.
Corey and Crosslands to get together and make sure they agreed on the recommendation, and
Okay, yeah, because that's, I mean, we have confidence in Corey and his team bringing us what we really need to
is
do.
the recommendation still for the lightweight concrete?
Yeah, our base bid option, the lightweight concrete deck.
So that would be my recommendation as well.
Not mine, and for 2 reasons, and can I say them? For
Sure.
2 reasons. One is to go with the lightweight concrete. We haven't heard anything that substantially tells me that the lightweight concrete is gonna be so much better, save us so extra money. We use all people, local people. We're not gonna subcontract it out to a company that's not here. And also, if we get down to the end and we need to have this roofed and we're predicted to have an extremely hard winter, what do we do when we can't roof the building because it's below 40 degrees? Those are my 2 big concerns.
I don't think schedule-wise, we're gonna be ready to roof.
I'm just saying, we don't know.
At that time.
But we don't know that that'll happen that way, because we don't know what the weather will hold and how, I mean, we could very well be in the dead of winter next year. with-
The following year.
With the, which is my two concerns.
Okay.
Valid concerns? Any other discussion? Entertain a motion?
What do we entertain a motion on?
Well, which one to pick? And I move that we pick Brock.
And I move for Ford.
Well,
I mean, I know, I'm just saying, I mean, before we get to the vote, I mean, that's where I'm thinking.
But my motion is Brock. Right.
Yes, yes.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion for
Lightweight concrete.
the lightweight concrete. The bid of $1,326,400. We have a second. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
No.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
Thank you all for coming
We all know put a lot of
and
work
for
into
taking
this.
your time with us. We appreciate both of you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for us before we leave?
You don't want to get out of here.
Do you want,
We know more
do you
about
want
this
any
now.
questions, Corey? But anyway, everybody's free to go if you don't, but you're welcome to stay as well.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
Could I just say one thing real quick? Just, I hate to interrupt, but.
It's up to the board president.
I know that we really do, I mean, I've been with the company 18 years and I'm considered one of the rookies. Some of our guys on our team have been there 30 years pouring lightweight concrete, so there are some differences with different lightweight companies, and I feel like we're the West Point of lightweight companies. We really do a good job of what we do, and thank you for your confidence in us. And 2 years ago, we actually poured, they had hail damage in Wiley ISD, and there were 16 different schools to bid on. We got 11 of the 16, where they left the roofing system on there. We poured an additional 2 inches of lightweight on top, and then they just added a new system to it. So, anyways.
Go to sleep.
I would like to say that I have a lot of confidence in Brock's. This wasn't, this is nothing towards your company. My major concerns were what I said, and I think y'all have done a fantastic job for us on the roofs you've done.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, it's time to move on if I get back to my deal.
Well,
Where are we at?
still in, we're on item 7D now, under superintendent's report.
Item 7D, okay.
Okay, item 7D, this is, and this is a quick discussion for the board. We have not brought the, proposed calendar, board meeting dates for next year. What I want to do is hear from the board, if the board would like us to meet with staff and discuss the viability of having fewer board meetings, or do you like the 2-a-month option? The 2-a-month option is what we've had most months, except for 2 or 3. But we wanted to see if the board had any, AJ, would you close that door for us?
Are we open for
The
discussion?
roofers are up there talking.
Yeah, they're talking.
My concern about meeting less than twice a month is, the attention span, if we go into 2 or 3 hour meetings.
Well, and it's such a large budget, and
Right.
there's so many multi-factions.
I mean, I think there are definitely months when we
Okay.
don't have to meet twice, and I think we're doing that now, like in the summer and during the holidays. and-
Spring break.
Right, but I think, if we, I'm not saying I like to meet often, I'm just saying that sometimes we try to cram too much into it, if we don't meet.
Okay.
It's hard to be able to give every item the attention it deserves when it becomes so loaded down. And things, to me, could be easily missed, and, we try our best to thoroughly.
I think right now, the way we're doing it
Is right, I think so
is
too.
probably
you can't.
way to do it.
I would prefer to have 4 meetings and that can last 7 minutes apiece.
And that is from our board president.
Wow.
But, now, honestly, with as much activity as we have with all
Especially
the
right
projects,
now, yeah.
this probably wouldn't be a good time to switch to that, in my opinion, but down the road, I can certainly see where it has merit.
Would the board be against me meeting with staff, keeping with the 2, if we could re-strategize how we use those two meetings.
Sure.
Yes.
And that way, because some school districts actually do more of their business items in one board meeting, and what that does, it, right now with the business office, again, this is a discussion we haven't had in depth, is there any way to, right now, if they have two board meetings and they do every we're spending about 4 days per each board meeting. If we could focus and concentrate those different efforts on different board meetings of the month, we might be able to actually save some time in the district. It wouldn't load more presentations in one board meeting, more business in the other, but we could explore that and come up with those, but keeping to the two system,
You can keep
two
the
board
two
meetings.
dates and let us know.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that makes really good sense.
Yeah, I'd have to see it on
problemo.
paper.
yeah, and again, that would be, I'd want to hear from the staff before I brought you information.
Okay,
So,
great.
we'll have that for you. And then superintendent's now, if you don't have any more questions on item D. Superintendent's announcements, I just have 2 or 3. First of all, I want board members to notice, there should be some fanfare or ooze. This is, the communications department's, new LPS and Review newspaper, so that's pretty awesome.
It is.
It's pretty incredible.
Very colorful, too.
Second thing is, our new, officer Coco Chanel is in the district, but she's not here with us tonight, so. We're gonna bring Coco Chanel here soon, but, again, she'll be here at one of the board meetings soon, and then I wanna share this last bit of information. Claudia Beckner, and I don't know if everybody here knows Claudia, she works in our special ed department, she's our 504 coordinator. She has been awarded the Professor James Martin Educator of the Year Award. And this award is given by the Oklahoma Division on Career Development and Transition for efforts to improve the quality and access to career transition services for people with disabilities. And so that's under Mr. Sharkey, and so congratulations to him and his team. So that's all I have for now, unless the board has any questions.
Okay. Item number 8 is the consent agenda,
I need to remove 8G1.
8G1.
It's my usual sanctioning.
And then I need to remove 8D2.
8D2.
For
Okay.
the remainder of
The consent agenda.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay, so, agenda item 8G1 is sanctioning.
And I move that we approve the sanctioning.
second.
Call the roll, please.
Okay.
Don't worry, I have,
Who made the motion?
I did. I seconded.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Abstain.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay, item 8D2.
Okay, my question on this is that we have, are we ready to have a session? Okay, I didn't want to jump the gun. Why did we have to have an emergency approval for something that we knew was gonna happen? I don't understand why we have, most of these people have already got their tickets, and it was substantially cheaper than this last one was. Then this emergency approval's like $8,000.
This is UVA, or is this Washington, or is this Character Ed?
Hang on.
It's $8,271.20.
Under purchasing for an increase?
Some,
It is under, my name's Donahue.
okay,
And,
thank you, Ms. Donahue.
I cannot tell you a lot about this. It is just my understanding that when we do travel, that it is, an emergency approval. But I will have to get
But
more information and.
Yeah, because it's not. I mean, we don't, where there's a lot of travel that's not emergency, that's in our encumbrances, if you wanted to look at them. But this one comes through as an emergency, and it comes through substantially higher than what the other tickets were for the same era. And I was just kind of curious if we added people, if there were, what the deal was.
And I'll get with Skylar, and we will get an answer for you. We'll get it to Dr. Deegan.
And now I'm not saying we don't approve it. I said we go ahead and approve it. I just would like to have some clarification as to why.
And we've run into this with travel more than any other.
More than
particular-
once, and then it's just kind of a concern when it comes across like that, because, I mean, it was like thousands higher, so, okay.
I'll get that information
Who's
to
already
you.
approved it? How did they approve it?
It's an emergency, superintendent's emergency.
Oh, okay, so I see what you're saying, all right, sorry.
We still have to vote.
Still
on it.
need-
We still have to vote on it, but it's been approved.
Well, I'm just saying I didn't want it to not happen if that had happened,
It's
you
already
know?
happened.
So, then how do we vote on something that was already approved?
Are you moving for approval?
He is.
He had to approve it because.
Well, that's two, that's what I thought.
That's why it's an
Okay.
emergency.
I understand.
Go ahead.
I'll move for approval
I'll
of
second.
8D2.
Ms. Nyworth was the second?
Yes.
Okay.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay.
Now,
Well, I mean, yeah, but
Mr. Jester, on the formative evaluation, if you want to, we can do both of them at the next one. If you think the board meeting's too long, but if you'll
Okay.
have the questions, if you'll still have everything fresh in your mind, it's up to you.
Okay.
But other than that, we have no need for executive session. I just
Other
want to
than
be
that, we would
sensitive.
have no need for an executive session?
I want to be sensitive to your time.
But, yeah, oh, do you need to have somewhere you have to be?
My mom.
No,
I need to go help my mom.
that's fine.
First section, that, change order,
It was in the consent agenda.
Mm-mm.
that
No, we
hundred
didn't.
and fifty-something dollars,
It was not, it's not
$145.71.
in It's not in the consent agenda as published, so it's an addendum, so it has to be.
Oh, yeah, that's on our tape, it's here, right here,
Yeah,
in
Mr.
front of
Lane
us.
said it was okay and kosher, so I should have stopped and mentioned this. So,
Okay,
Change order.
do we need to go back and revote, will be the question.
probably yes, to make it,
For $145.
He just said it's an addendum, so can't we vote on that separate?
that's what I'm thinking,
We just
can't we?
vote on it separately, right?
That's what I'm thinking, we could just go back and vote on
Move
it.
for approval.
Second.
Thank you, Kathy.
Wait a minute,
Now
before
you
we
can
get
ask
that far.
Find out where we are.
I mean, we're getting back part of the reserve.
Never mind, this was a question I had for Corey, and then we scooted.
And he gone.
I mean, it's taken so long for this to be done, it's crazy. We're now up to June of next year.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Anyway, I moved for approval.
Did you second
Yes.
it, Dr. Bridges?
I did.
Okay.
Call roll,
Ms.
please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay, so, the question is do we want to have an executive session so we can discuss the big rock? Or do we want to hold that off until next?
I think I've already got rocks in my head.
I think I'm fine with holding it off till the next meeting
Yes,
if you are.
absolutely.
I'm definitely fine with that.
We're sensitive to everybody's time here.
You know, the guy that's gonna have 4 meetings a year at 7 minutes apiece, yeah, that's the person to ask.
I need this
Okay.
answer tomorrow.
Okay,
So
so
would
I'm
you-
having trouble.
Would you like a,
You have to click on it for some reason.
Yeah, go back.
That side, you have to click that side again.
would you like a motion to adjourn?
I'm making a motion, we adjourn.
We have a
gotta do the
personnel
personnel
report.
I have a
report.
personnel report. Oh, never mind, I mean, I guess we just discussed it.
Gina Hastings would not be happy.
That's
if
your,
we- She's over there.
that's Lori's fault.
I'm
He
ready.
jumped the gun.
Sorry.
I'm hungry.
Okay, item 13A,
Oh, there you go.
item 13, superintendent's personnel report.
Okay. Under item 13A, we have the approval of certified and support personnel reports.
I'll make a motion, we approve, just to make Jean happy. No.
Patty will second.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Item 14, new business,
I have none.
and the thing just jumped again.
I
No,
know.
you just almost have
Mine
to just
does
stay
that
on it,
too.
just click on it, and then just scroll down again. I couldn't get it to do
I
anything
think
different.
it's,
Okay, well, what's next?
Is, a motion to adjourn? Can we adjourn now?
Can we adjourn now?
Next regular board meeting date is Monday, November 5th, 2018, 5 PM here. Do we need to set any other board meeting dates?
None I'm aware of.
Anyone have any announcements? Okay, Carla, you're on.
Now, finally, we'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Call roll, please.
Ms. Clodfelter?
Yes.
Ms. Nyworth?
Yes.
Dr. Bridges?
yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay.
There's a lot of ground to cover in one night.
Yeah, it was.